So I'm Lacey Brown with SDSU Extension, and most of you know Chad Radigan, Alan Adele, and Amanda Sample.
Yeah,
This is kind of our brainchild. We had this idea of promoting universal design in businesses to help customers live independently in community and home. Because we talk a lot about keeping people independent at home, but from our perspective, to be independent, you have to be able to interact with the community around you. So this is kind of the beginning of a series that we're doing this year. Oh, here, let me give you handouts. So I have an outline, so you can take notes.
Thank you.
And then if you're willing to tell me a little bit about yourself, you don't need to put your name, but because I work for the state, they like us to keep track of this stuff. Absolutely.
They like you to profile. I mean.
So I want to start out today and just say, when you think of customer service, how would you describe that? I am.
Exceeding the customer's expectations.
Going beyond what the customer expects. And that's, I think, a good one. Some of the comments we had this morning is receiving attention and having our needs met. And that's what we want whenever we go to businesses. So we put together a survey, an electronic survey, and we shared it for about 2 months. We distributed it. We distributed it on social media, email list. We distributed it to some disease-specific support groups. I'm delighted to report 74 people responded. Not a huge number, but a nice number to give us an idea of what people are experiencing at our businesses. More than half of our respondents were age 55 or younger. Most of them were women, and most of them were white or Caucasian. We had 6 Native Americans provide feedback to us. So here's a question. Why did customers use the automatic door button?
Because it was there.
Because it was there. That was, I think that might have been, someone wrote that, but by and large, their arms were full.
Yes.
The people who respond to our survey, 2 out of 3 of them use the button because their arms were full. The second most frequent response is 1 in 3 were pushing a stroller. And the third response was a loved one has difficulty opening the door. So next question, why did customers use the ramp?
Because they needed to.
They needed to. They were pushing a cart or a stroller. That's the most common response. 40% said they're pushing a cart or a stroller, making a delivery, something like that. It's easier. And then arms were full was another response. And that's one reason I commonly use it. I have my little mobile office, I call it. I roll it around behind me. I'm often carrying my purse and my lunch bag. I use the button. Makes life easier. So build storefront. This is the building. This is the parking lot. This is the physical things that we interact with businesses. The challenges described by the people who participated in our survey, stairs. Almost half said the stairs were a challenge for them. 39% said the merchandise was too crowded to browse. 39% said it was hard to open the door. 1 in 3 said there was no elevator, and that made it difficult for them to be customers. 30% said the loud music or background noise. And 84% of the people who participated in our survey said that they would be more likely to conduct business with an organization that was accessible. So virtual storefront, these are our websites. This is the technology piece of our business. Confusing websites were the #1 reported problem. 41% of the people who shared their experiences said that was a problem for them. Concerns about security and identity theft. 1 in 3 people said that was a concern they had. Hard to locate the contact information. 1 in 5. I mean, I know myself, I've looked for contact information, been a little bit annoyed when I couldn't find it and give up and go elsewhere. Difficult to see, 1 in 13, 8%, and then poor experience in the past.
I have a question for you. Difficult to see as in the variations of the screen?
We didn't, we didn't go that into depth of why, but it could be colors, it could be font, it could be just a different number of things.
Okay.
Other comments that they gave that I thought were really interesting, upgrades and that learning curve whenever they change websites. It can be kind of frustrating. One person reported that they have Parkinson's disease and they tremble, and the buttons are not very forgiving if they don't hit it perfectly. So that's a challenge that some of our customers described. As a gerontologist, I have to always talk about age. It's what I do. So does age predict if a person will say a website is confusing? We can't really say from our sample. We didn't have equal numbers of each age group. But realistically, we had at least one person that was 18 to 25 say a website was confusing. So age doesn't necessarily report it. I mean, we can't say definitively from this, but the people who said the websites were confusing, pretty broad group from all ages. Accessible home concerns. We asked about this because housing is a concern, is a business in a lot of ways. We see a lot of selling and buying of houses, and people talk often about aging in place, and that is a goal for them. 2 out of 3 of our respondents said they weren't concerned about it. But those of who were, they said stairs, split level, space for wheelchair, and loved one with disabilities are reasons why they were interested in having an accessible home. So customer retention. We're going to start out with the Americans with Disabilities Act. It has one purpose. It's to prevent discrimination against people with disabilities. That's its purpose. It's been applied with a tape measure and a gavel. We don't want to go down that road. We've seen the impact of telling people they're going to get sued. I mean, they lose the value. I mean, I know a gentleman who owns a business, and he had to put an elevator in because the ADA said so. He lost the value of what having that elevator means because he was told to do it. And our goal is we want to demonstrate how these features and universal design is the gold standard specifically benefit everybody. As we saw on our slides earlier, it's not just people with disabilities using these features. We're all using them. Oh, and another piece. Most business owners are not intentionally discriminating against people with disabilities. They're not. It's just their building is probably 30, 40 years old, and the ADA is only 26 years old. So nothing's intentional. So it kind of gives us, leaves a bad taste in people's mouths. And we don't want to avoid going down that road. But customer loyalty, it's rooted in how we feel. And I like this Achieve Global description of defining moments. I think that's perfect for what we're talking about here. Defining moments are those impressions that we develop as we interact with businesses. It happens when we pull into the parking lot. Do we feel confident that we're in the right place? Do we feel welcome? All those feelings that we have when we come to a business. They can be negative, neutral, or positive. And they begin as soon as we arrive, and they all accumulate to create that customer experience. Successful businesses attempt to identify potential defining moments that could be negative. And they try to figure out how to avoid those. I mean, that's kind of the goal of this. And that's what we really are hoping to achieve with this. So I've got some pictures. I found these online to kind of show some examples of defining moments. If you used a wheelchair, a walker, crutches, could you interact with this little shop? It wouldn't be very comfortable. You'd probably just keep on going. So this is the one I told. I need to circle the issue that I can see clearly. Can anybody see it? It's kind of small. Chad and I talked about it.
I saw it.
You did see it.
Right away.
There's a step.
Okay.
There's that one little step right there. And that one little step, that can be the difference between coming to a business or not. This one, this high counter, looks like a coffee shop. I hope it's a coffee shop. What do you think? If you're a person with a disability, It's going to be difficult. You're going to roll up to this counter if you're using a chair like Alan, and you're going to be peering up, trying to order your drink. It's not a very comfortable experience. What about this one? It's a little bit better, but there are some issues.
Well, the high bids aren't gonna help it.
Those high bins aren't going to help. The
High shelves.
high shelves. And another one that we heard about when we were having some discussions were the placements of the labels on the shelves. You know, if you're sitting in a wheelchair and you can't look up and see those labels, do we really want to have someone following us around reading what the labels are on the top shelf? It's not a good, positive, defining moment. And not everyone who has a disability is necessarily going to haul them around with them. I mean, plenty of people who have disabilities are able to live very independently. So the virtual storefront, that's the websites, and this is just a picture of a website that I pulled offline. Any thoughts about this website, just from an appearance? It's a little fuzzy. The labels across the top are a little bit difficult to read. Yep, they're a little bit difficult to read.
There's not a lot of contrast.
That's exactly right. The contrast there. And this one here is a little bit easier to see, a little bit contrast, but it's just this idea that when you come to a website, it can be difficult to use. This one, I have to share the story about this one here. I've got a printout of it so you can see it a little bit better. So 2014, I've been talking web design for a long time to just really encourage businesses to be conscious of their website, because that, I mean, in the Block Hills, first way that someone finds out about your business, they're trying to, you know, go to your restaurants or whatever. So I took this picture in 2014. On the next screen is the one that I took a couple days ago. And you've got both of them on there.
Yeah.
And you can see, what differences do you notice? I mean, it's pretty small.
You've added the tabs from the first one are up on top in more like a taskbar, where below, I missed it.
Mm-hmm.
Until I started looking and saying, whoa, where'd those come from?
Mm-hmm.
They're gone in the first.
You can't see them. You know, and this is just a website I found. That top one is just a website I found because I was looking for an example of a website that was difficult. You know, it's got that crazy font that's really hard to see. Even this font here, I don't know if they changed fonts or they spaced the letters out more, but it's easier to see. And just those little details, I mean, color contrast, you've said it, that can make or break a website and how usable it is. You know, and I went to the Rapid City Digital Summit, and they were talking about the importance of websites. And if a user cannot go to your website and find exactly what they want immediately,
They're gone.
They're done. You know, so these are the things. I mean, websites are starting to get better. I still see some examples of ones that I'm like, really? Facebook is a great example. I mean, that icon, the globe, I was teaching a man to use Facebook one day, and I'm like, hey, click the globe. What globe? He asked me. I pointed to where it was, and he leaned really close. You know, it's just these things, that these decisions that we make about selecting colors, they make a difference. They matter. Okay, so employee development. One of our respondents told us that when he wants to check out at stores, he gives his items to his wife because clerks ignore him. He has Parkinson's disease. Clerks ignore him. You know, so there could be an opportunity to train employees about disabilities, dementia, mental health, developmental disabilities, the appropriate way to talk to older people. It's not okay to call older people sweetie, you know, that's not, you know. You've seen the people that do that, and they treat them like children sometimes. That's not appropriate.
No, it's not.
See, just ladies. So what are the benefits of doing this? There's financial benefits, especially if we can encourage businesses and organizations to start thinking about this. Retaining customers is a lot cheaper than recruiting new customers. first and foremost. Reduce legal expenses. I mean, there are people who are going around with tape measures and measuring places, you know. So if we think about this stuff from the beginning, you can reduce your legal expenses. And we recognize that a lot of businesses are in buildings that have existed for decades. It's not as easy for them. But, for example, Colonial House. Anybody remember the commercials that Colonial House was doing when they were advertising their new location? Anybody remember? They stood out to me because they were advertising no step entry. You know, so when they made the decision to move to their new location, they intentionally made sure that they had no step entry. You know, so that's kind of what we're getting at. If you're going to make a change to your business, let's include this stuff. Retrofitting is expensive. It is. We know it is. Trying to widen hallways. Think market penetration. Here's a really interesting statistic about websites and accessible websites. If a website is inaccessible, we are potentially missing 15 to 20% of consumers. You know, and that's an estimated spending power of $220 billion. You know, so that's why it's so important to make sure our websites are accessible. You know, and making sure they're screen reader friendly. I have watched some demonstration videos on screen readers just to see how they work. And Facebook is notorious because it's like advertisement, advertisement, advertisement. You know, it's not intuitive, it doesn't work, it's not comfortable to use. So making sure it's friendly for screen readers. Reputation at Colonial House. If people have a positive experience, they're going to tell other people about it. But if they have a crummy experience, they're going to probably tell that one more. Older adults are the fastest growing group in the country, and because of low birth rates, we expect it to be that way. While most older adults are active and independent, some have disabilities. Low vision's pretty common, you know. So making sure that this group that has a lot of disposable income.
So is that because of the bubble?
What
Because of the baby boom bubble? Is that why we're seeing that?
Birth rates. Do you know the largest living generation right now? Millennials. Millennials.
That's right.
You know, so it's really the birth rates that are driving this. I mean, during the height of the baby boom, the birth rate, fertility rate was like 115. We're hanging out around 63 right now. You know, so we just aren't having as many children. People are living longer, but it's not really that much longer. It's just the fact that we're having less children. So it's really a proportion thing. Employees, you know, when your building is accessible and universal design, your employees benefit as well because they can interact with it. So what's next? Our whole goal is to increase opportunities for positive defining moments. You know, over this course year, we've got 3 more sessions, and we want to, you know, help businesses, provide support to businesses as they try to explore and understand, and not just businesses, organizations, anybody who interacts with other people, which is everybody last I checked. We want to help them understand ways that they can make their business more accessible. And beyond that, universal design is the gold standard. Universal design, the purpose of it is to make sure that people of all abilities, whether you're jazz height, or you're a shorter person, or you use a chair, or you're a child, that you can interact comfortably with the spaces. You know, so in promoting universal design, the final session in October, we're really hoping to get some feedback from our business owners. We want to know, how can we help them? You know, maybe they want some more training about universal design. Maybe they want to know more about accessible web design. So we want to understand, how can we, you know, help them? We really want to provide support, raise awareness, you know, where we can on this, because we see a lot of value in creating a more universal community. And we were talking about this morning. You know, this is decades of work. We can't rip everything down and rebuild it. It's going to take time. But starting that knowledge, starting that conversation in positive ways, not about this, you're going to get sued if you don't comply with the ADA, you know, that we want to help you because we see the benefit to you and your business. Questions, comments, anything you want this